The tarot card murders. The wind howled through the narrow alleyways of Black Ridge, carrying whispers of unease. Detective Robert Durham stood at the edge of the crime scene, his coat collar turned up against the biting cold. Another body had been found, and like the others, it came with a chilling calling card. "What's it this time?" he asked Officer Graham as he handed him a sealed evidence bag. Inside was a tarot card. The Tower. The edges were worn, as though it had passed through many hands. Robert's stomach tightened. The Tower, a symbol of chaos, destruction, and sudden upheaval. Fitting, she thought grimly, given the scene before her. The victim, a middle-aged banker named Harold Grant, lay sprawled on the floor of his study. Shards of glass from a toppled whiskey decanter glittered like malevolent stars in the dim light. His neck bore bruises, the telltale signs of strangulation. Like the 4 victims before him, Harold had received a tarot card hours before his death, predicting his grim demise. He'd spent sleepless nights poring over crime scene photos, police reports, and interviews. But the killer remained elusive, their identity as cryptic as the cards they left behind. "Anything else?" Robert asked. "His wife said he got the card in the mail yesterday," Graham replied. "Didn't think much of it until now." Robert's eyes scanned the room, settling on the mahogany desk piled with paperwork. He approached it cautiously, donning gloves to sift through the mess. Amid tax forms and loan agreements was an envelope, its edges smudged with ink. The address was handwritten, but the looping script gave no clues. Inside was another tarot card, the Tower, identical to the one found near the body. "Why send 2?" Robert murmured, more to himself than to Graham. He shrugged. "Maybe they wanted to make sure he got the message. Or they're playing with us," he muttered darkly. Back at the precinct, Robert spread out the evidence on the conference table. 5 cards: death, the hanged man, the moon, justice, and now the Tower. Each one chillingly appropriate to its respective victim: a terminally ill patient, a trapeze artist, a private investigator, a corrupt lawyer, and now Harold Grant, whose life had crumbled under financial scandals. The killer didn't just choose victims, they crafted stories. "What if the cards are more than a calling card?" Robert said aloud, drawing the attention of his team. "You think they're a message?" Graham asked. "Maybe." He gestured to the array of cards. "Look at the sequence: death and the hanged man, transformation and suspension, the moon, deception and illusion, justice, accountability, and now the Tower, complete destruction." "Sounds like a progression," Graham said, frowning. "But a progression to what?" Robert didn't answer. Instead, his mind raced. He needed to know what connected these victims beyond their gruesome ends. All 5 victims attended a charity gala 2 years ago. It was hosted by the Crescent Society. Robert's brow furrowed. The Crescent Society was a secretive organization known for its eccentric members and love of the esoteric. Tarot cards, he realized, would be right up their alley. Within hours, he was sitting in the lavish parlor of Margaret Allerton, the Society's chairwoman. "I'm afraid I don't know much about your murders, Detective," Margaret said, sipping her tea. "But yes, all 5 victims were at the gala. It was a fundraiser for our community outreach programs." "Did anything unusual happen that night?" Robert pressed. Margaret's lips tightened. "There was an incident. A man named Victor Hale disrupted the evening. He accused several guests of ruining his life, claimed they were responsible for his wife's death." "What happened to him?" "He was escorted out and later arrested for trespassing, but he vanished after making bail." The pieces clicked into place. Victor Hale, a man with a vendetta, knowledge of the tarot, and a penchant for dramatics. It had to be him. Tracking Hale wasn't easy, but Robert finally cornered him in an abandoned theater on the outskirts of town. The stage was set for a macabre performance, with tarot cards scattered like confetti. Hale stood in the center, a wild glint in his eyes. "You don't understand," he said as Robert approached, his gun trained on him. "They destroyed my life. This isn't murder, it's justice." "Justice doesn't come with a body count," Robert retorted. Hale laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the empty hall. "The cards don't lie, Detective, and neither do I. This ends tonight." Before he could make his next move, Robert fired. The bullet struck his shoulder, sending him crashing to the floor. As he cuffed him, his gaze fell on the final card clutched in his hand. The world, completion, fulfillment, the end of a cycle. Robert shivered. The tarot executioner's reign was over, but the card's cryptic messages would haunt him for years to come.